Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Sarah, and welcome to the Titan Podcast. Today, we're joined by Pastor Murch from LifePoint Church to talk about Easter.
Thanks for letting me be on this. And for listeners out there, hi, my name's Andrew.
So what is Easter, and what does it mean to you?
I mean, Easter is something we celebrate in Christian church primarily. You know, we call it at times Resurrection Sunday. Good Friday comes a couple days before Easter, and that's the day on which Jesus Christ died on the cross. And then Easter, a few days later, is Resurrection Sunday, or the day we celebrate Him rising from the dead. You could say probably within the church, Christmas and Easter are like the two biggest times of the year in terms of our calendar of kind of celebrating the birth of Christ and then the death and resurrection of Christ. What does Easter mean to me? That death isn't the end, or death isn't the final answer, that life can come back from death.
How do you celebrate Easter?
Easter's a busy day for me. Easter weekend's super busy because we have a Good Friday gathering usually on like Friday night, and then Easter Sunday, you know, we'll do like 3 Sunday morning gatherings or Sunday morning services here at the church. And so my celebration is usually like preaching sermons, and a lot of times here at the church we'll have people that will get baptized that day, which is kind of going public with your faith and showing what God has done in your life and sort of an outward sign of an inward work that God's done in you. And so you could say I celebrate it together with like a couple thousand of my family members, if you will, here at the church. And then my wife and I, we have 4 daughters, and they love to do like Easter baskets or something like that. And so a lot of candy going around our house, do like a little egg hunt in our backyard. And we try to just exemplify for them for both Christmas and Easter that it's a time of giving. It's a time where God gave gifts to us. And so that's sort of our motivation to give gifts to other people and to eat really good food. Not sure where the egg comes in, but you know, it's just, that's one of those kind of traditions in our culture that we keep as a family. And we'll eat some Easter dinner and, you know, kind of do it that way. So a lot of family, a lot of fun.
The entire basis of Easter, as you mentioned, is hope and renewal. So what are some ways we can find hope in our day-to-day lives when we're surrounded by a lot of negativity?
That's a good question. There is a lot of negativity in our culture, and a lot of times we try to look inside ourselves to find hope, or we try to look inside ourselves to find renewal. And I think a real key is you can't save yourself, and that you have to look outside yourself for something greater than you, those kind of things. We call that something, or a someone, God, right? And God coming to earth in Jesus. And so I think that getting to the point where we stop looking simply inside ourselves and start looking outside of ourselves for something greater than ourselves, I think that's a real key to finding hope, to finding renewal, to finding what we would say with Easter, to finding resurrection, right? To finding life from death. A huge aspect of that is what we call the gospel, or the good news. And that's the message of what Jesus has done. And it kind of culminates in Easter and, you know, Him dying and rising from the dead. So for me, for the way that I raise my family, like that's where we look for that, in the finished work of Jesus, and something that we can put hope in and trust in and have that relationship with God as a result.
How can we keep from losing hope?
I look at like joining community. That's a huge way for me to have people around me who not only care for me, but then who I care for as well. Being in community is not all about just being served by other people, but also serving others as well. And so I think that leaning into a positive and focused group of people who are going to meet one another's needs, care for one another, and keep one another focused on what matters most, that's a huge way to kind of hold on to our hope. What are you basing your hope on? I mean, even, are you based it on a group of friends? Are you based it on a relationship? Or is it based on something that is beyond yourself, something that is outside yourself, something that's unchanging, something that you know you can trust long term? If that's what your hope is based on, it'll be on a solid foundation.
For those who may or may not be religious, what's something that we can all keep in mind this Easter?
Know where you're building your foundation would be a first one. Most of the time, we just go through life and we react. Things change when we sort of step back. I don't know. I think we look at death, and there's a lot there to fear. I think the message of Easter is that death is not the end. That's just something I think, no matter what your belief system is, that message that death doesn't have to be the end, but there can be life from death, that's a pretty hopeful message.
Announcements for this podcast episode. I would just like to promote LPC.
March 25th is Good Friday, 7 p.m. That's a day where we celebrate the death of Christ. We celebrate it because we know a few days later He rose from the dead. And so it's actually a hopeful thing for us as Christians. So there's a gathering at 7 p.m. here at our church. And then Easter Sunday morning, as I mentioned, 8 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and 11 a.m. We have 3 gatherings. And during those gatherings, there's programs for kids and middle schoolers and all sorts of things there. And I think the biggest thing for our kids and our middle schoolers and our high schoolers, Wednesday night, we have these programs that operate here, and great community of young people. You know, you talk about a positive type of environment where there's community, there's support, there's all those things. And we have that both in LPC Kids Live for elementary age kids, as well as in what we call Citizens, which is our youth community that meets every Wednesday at 7 o'clock here at our facility.
So next up, we're going to play a game. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to go over different rituals around the world. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about a ritual or a belief, and you're going to try to guess what religion it came from. Okay, body piercing festival. Participants pierce their bodies, even go as far as using large spears and hooks through the chest and face.
I'm thinking like this is 1500 to 2000 BC in the area, what would be called kind of Mesopotamia or like what we would today call the Middle East. Some Canaanite religions practice those kind of things, body piercings and tattoos and stuff.
This is from Hinduism, and they actually, I think they still do it today.
Oh, all right. And so regionally, we're talking probably Middle East or India, east side of the Middle East. Cool.
Ash, bone, and plantain soup. When a person dies, their body is burned, and the remains are then mixed into a plantain soup to be ingested by loved ones.
Ooh, Mongolia?
Venezuela, Brazilian.
Ooh, so not even the right hemisphere.
Sky burials. So the bodies of the dead are fed to animals.
Sky burials. Is this Buddhism?
Yep, it's Buddhism.
Okay.
Holy underwear.
Dude, Mormonism. Got it.
Yep.
2 for 2 in the last couple.
And last one, the bridesmaid blockade. When a groom comes to visit his bride on wedding day, he must break through a wall of angry bridesmaids who demand money and gifts and put him through various performances before letting him through.
Let's call that, I'm trying to think of major world religions we haven't hit. Zoroastrianism?
It's actually a Chinese wedding ritual, and it's a way for the groom to prove his love for his new wife.
Okay.
Yep. So thank you, Pastor Murch, for coming on to our podcast today. Thank you, LifePoint Church, for allowing us to use their nice equipment for this podcast. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.